Hello, Boils and Ghouls. I'm Gory B Movie, and I'm a horror addict, and today we're doing the Vincent Price tag. So, the Vincent Price tag was started by my buddies Dino and Ted over on the Late Late Horror Show. It's an awesome show. You should check it out. You probably already do. I was tagged by my good friend Nightmare Maven, who loves Vincent Price and was nice enough to invite me to join this awesome tag. Now, I've been a big Vincent Price fan since I was knee-high to a crypt keeper. My mummy raised me on the classics, as a good mummy should, and I'm really excited to share some of my favorite Vincent Price films with you guys today. So, let's get started. The first question is, what is your favorite Vincent Price horror film? For me, this is an easy one. I love the 1958 The Fly. It's one of my favorite films, and Vincent Price is phenomenal in it. He plays Francois, who is just this beautifully complicated character. He is a genuinely nice and noble person who is in a very difficult situation. Francois is the brother of a man who is found pressed to death at the beginning of the film. And the lead suspect is his sister-in-law, who Francois is in love with. But Francois, being the gentleman that he is, has never expressed his feelings out loud. He let his brother get the girl, and he has resigned himself to being a lifelong bachelor. And despite how hard it must be for him, Francois is very close to the family, so when they need help and call on him, he comes right away. I love this movie. It is a tragic love story. It is a fantastic horror film, and Vincent Price is phenomenal in it. Question 2. What is your favorite Vincent Price non-horror film? The first one that comes to mind for me is The Great Mouse Detective. I still remember going to see that at the theater with my family when I was a kid, and I loved it then, and I love it now. Though I have to say, I think the reason I love that movie is more Basil, the Great Mouse Detective, and Toby, not so much Ratigan, who is the character that Vincent Price voices. So to pick a non-horror film that I love purely for the Vincent Price-ness of it all, I'm gonna have to go with Edward Scissorhands and Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine. Now, Edward Scissorhands, I'm sure you're familiar with. He plays Edward's father and creator, and he is wonderful in that. You may not be familiar with Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, which is a James Bond-style spoof starring Vincent Price as Dr. Goldfoot. I love this movie because Vincent Price just looks like he is having the time of his life. He gives this wonderful, over-the-top performance that you just can't help but smile at. Also, in how many films do you get to hear Vincent Price tell someone to shut up?
Shut up.
He's the villain in this, but he's a goofball, kind of along the lines of Dr. Evil and Austin Powers. And he has a bikini machine.
Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine. Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine.
That's gonna be stuck in your head for days. Also, if you're a big Vincent Price fan, there are a lot of nods to some of his other famous roles in this, like Pit and the Pendulum. It's a lot of fun, so check it out. It's cheesy, it's crazy, it's a movie you kinda have to see to believe. Question 3. Who would win in a fight between the Triumvirate of Evil? Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, or Peter Cushing? Now, this is an interesting question. Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee have faced off a number of times through many a Hammer horror film. Christopher Lee has also played Count Dooku in Star Wars. He was in Lord of the Rings. He's usually the bad guy. He was Dracula, he was the Mummy, he was Frankenstein's monster. And then you have Peter Cushing, who has been Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Frankenstein, as well as Van Helsing. He, a lot of times, is the 1-2 best Christopher Lee in these movies, so I think it would go down like this. You would have Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing facing off as they do, and I think Vincent Price would be smart enough to kind of take a step back and let them take each other out. He would announce the whole fight from the sidelines, giving you probably the best fight experience you can possibly imagine. Vincent Price has played both monster and hero, and he's also done a lot of narration. He's kind of like the Morgan Freeman of horror, so who better to announce this fight than the man himself? The fight would be intense. Christopher Lee is a scary mofo, but ultimately, Peter Cushing's gonna take him out because that's what Peter Cushing does when he goes up against Christopher Lee. So at the end of it, you've got Vincent Price announcing the winner. Peter Cushing gives him his belt, everyone's super excited, and then Vincent Price backstabs him. I don't know, he poisons his drink or literally stabs him in the back because that's what Vincent Price does. he's a devious dude. So ultimately, Vincent Price wins. Question 4. Vincent Price's best contribution to a music album: Michael Jackson's Thriller or Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. Now, I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan. I've seen him live, I have all his albums, I love his acting work in movies like Prince of Darkness, and I still remember watching him on MTV and on VHS recordings with my dad. That said, Michael Jackson's Thriller is the best music video of all time. On top of that, Vincent Price's contribution to that music video is legendary. I mean, that laugh alone, it's amazing. So for me, it's no contest. Thriller. Question 5. Replace any actor in a horror movie with Vincent Price. What actor and what movie? One I would have loved to see him in that was made during his lifetime was Mr. Dark in Something Wicked This Way Comes. I think he would have been phenomenal in that. Another one that I think could be kind of fun would be seeing Vincent Price play Doctor Strange. I mean, he kind of looked like Doctor Strange in 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo anyway, so I can picture it. And another one that I've always just been kind of curious about is seeing him play Peter Vincent in Fright Night. Now, that role was written for him by Tom Holland, hence why he is named Peter Vincent. It's a combination of Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. Ultimately, Tom Holland decided that Peter Vincent wasn't exactly in the same league as Vincent Price, that he was kind of a has-been of horror hosting, and I think Roddy McDowall did a fantastic job, and I just love his performance. He gives so much heart. But we did get a remake with David Tennant, and it was a completely different Peter Vincent. So if we're gonna reimagine Peter Vincent, I would love to see him played by Vincent Price. Maybe a more savvy vampire hunter with confidence, or playing the character as it was written. I mean, Vincent Price has range, and I would just love to see his take on it. Now, the other side of that is that movie came out when Vincent Price was towards the end of his life and he wasn't doing as much horror. However, he was really good friends with Roddy McDowall, who used to have these famous dinner parties where he'd invite all of these celebrities, including Vincent Price, and that is how Tom Holland got to meet Vincent Price. And apparently, Vincent Price was very impressed with the character and loved the movie. Question 6. If you were in a movie with Vincent Price, chances are he'd kill you. How would you want Price to kill your character? That's easy. Death by seduction. Vincent Price is on my coffin list of actors who are both dead and dead sexy. So if I've gotta die, that's the way I want to go out. We could have dinner, he could poison me, and then as I lay there on the floor, choking on my own vomit, at least I would have the comfort of listening to his voice as he reveals his entire plan to me, and my final thoughts would be worth it. Question 7. Vincent Price guest starred on many classic TV shows. What is your favorite? I'm gonna have to go with the classic Batman TV series starring Adam West. He played Egghead, or as he preferred to be called, Mr. Egghead. He was crazy smart and basically an evil Batman in that respect, only he was obsessed with eggs and not bats. He also gave some excellent puns. Vincent Price starred in films with the word house in the title. What is your favorite? You know, come to think of it, he really has been in a lot of movies with the word house in it. There's House of Usher, House of Wax, House of Long Shadows, but I gotta say my favorite has gotta be House on Haunted Hill, which if you've been to my house, you probably would have guessed since I have a giant poster of that movie downstairs. House on Haunted Hill is a lot of fun, and Vincent Price is so deliciously devious in it. This is also one of those movies that I wish I could have seen when it originally came out. It would have been amazing. It's a William Castle film, and if you know anything about him, he went all out and made his movies not just a movie, but an event. And in House on Haunted Hill, a skeleton would actually zip line through the audience. That would have been crazy, and I would have loved every second of it. Question 9. If Vincent Price could read you a bedtime story, what would it be? Well, I don't want to pick a classic bedtime story because that would be too short, and I want to milk my Vincent Price storytelling time for all it's worth. My first inclination would be the 50 Shades of Grey books. You know, I haven't read those or seen the movies, but I hear they're pretty sexy, and nobody is sexier than Vincent Price, so why not? But my serious answer would be Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. Richard Matheson is my all-time favorite author, and I Am Legend is my favorite book. And as you probably know, Vincent Price starred in an adaptation of I Am Legend called The Last Man on Earth. It's one of the better adaptations of that story, the other two being Night of the Living Dead and Omega Man. We're not going to even talk about the Will Smith one because just no. At any rate, Last Man on Earth captured the power of that novel in a way that none of the other adaptations did. My favorite part of I Am Legend is the last few lines of the story, and imagining Vincent Price reading those lines gives me chills. It would be so powerful and so amazing. Question 10. Vincent Price lent his voice to several animated films and shows. What is your favorite? I'm gonna go with 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. I actually didn't watch this when it originally aired, even though I was a kid at the time. My son Lols, who is a huge Scooby-Doo fan, introduced me to it. And even though I wish they would have replaced Flim Flam and Scrappy-Doo with Fred and Velma, this is a lot of fun. I mean, you get to see Vincent Price going on crazy adventures with Scooby-Doo. That's awesome. And Vincent Price voices the whole opening, and it's all epic, and now I really want to go watch 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. But first, let's wrap this up. At the end of this puppy, I am supposed to tag some other people to do their own Vincent Price tag, and I tag... Who do I tag? Well, first off, I tag you because you're watching this video, so let me know about it in the comments below, and I will check that puppy out. I'm also gonna tag 52 Weeks of Horror, Mother Mayhem. Ooh, I'm gonna tag Dr. Gangrene, my friends at the horror show. And I'm gonna tag Ivan at the Movie Void. And be sure to check out the original tag video done by the Late Late Horror Show. I'm gonna put that in the description below. I'm gonna link Nightmare Maven's video in the description below. And I would love to hear your responses, even if you don't wanna make a video. Leave them in the comments below. It'll give me something to read and respond to while I'm watching 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo with my kiddo, which I'm gonna do now. So, thanks for watching. Cut!
Yeah.